Hi, my name's Madison, and today I'm going to be talking all about the menstrual cup. So, I'm a senior in high school, and this all kind of came about because of a senior service project opportunity, and I wanted to conduct like a green initiative procedure where girls could come in and share about periods and the menstrual cycle, and we could actively fight the stigma that we face every day as women. But instead, with this whole pandemic going on, I have conducted a survey virtually amongst my peers and then a few older, like early college students to get a feel about where our education levels lie as far as this product and what the interest is amongst my peers. So I found that over 80% of girls actually do know what a menstrual cup is, which I was super happy about. And of that 80%, 20% have tried menstrual cups. So I'm going to start just by sharing my journey, how I got here. I've been a menstrual cup user for about 2 years now. No, maybe a year. I don't know, it feels like forever. But basically, I'm an athlete. I've always played 3 sports. And so I used tampons to begin with. Never was a pad kind of girl. But I'm not super heavy, I'm a little bit above average, I would say. And so my cramps are a little bit worse than some of my friends, but definitely not anything extreme. And so I was always fine with just using tampons, but I knew there were other options, and I'm very much interested in the world of health and sustainability and how we're impacting our earth. And so I started looking into the menstrual cup and ended up getting one. And this was shortly after, actually I have a funny story, I accidentally put in a second tampon, like in a rush trying to get to basketball practice. I had forgotten I hadn't taken mine out, I guess. Put a second tampon in, and those were the worst cramps I've had in my life. And I've read lots of articles, and I know there's studies behind the impact of like the products and how they're made. So if you think about it, cotton, it's not naturally white, but when we go and buy things, we expect a white, pristine, clean cotton product, right? Well, the only way to get there, for the most part, is by bleaching. So there's a lot of chemicals that go into the production of feminine products that we're not educated about. And if you know anything about the female anatomy, you know that our lady areas are very absorbent, and so things like germs and chemicals and anything that reaches or breaches us can be absorbed into our bloodstream. So that's a really big thing to think about, is what you're putting into your body and how that's affecting you. And so I know there's research out there that says that tampons will worsen your cramps and lengthen your period because the products is for profit, or the pads are for profit. And so if you think about it, if a company had a way to lengthen your period or make it heavier, you would have to use more of their products. So I see where people are coming from. I'm not entirely sure that the research is there for that, but I wouldn't be surprised in any way if there was some sort of influencer there that companies like have brought into the production of female products. So in my survey, sorry, I'm gonna look down, I have some notes here. So in my survey, I asked those of the 80% that had tried a menstrual cup to share their experiences. So we're gonna do a little pros and cons list from those people, and I can speak to this as well as we go. But basically, for the pros, I was gonna call it pros from the pros, but they said one of the biggest things that users are like happy about is the sustainability of the product and how it impacts our environment. So that's one of the biggest questions I received from non-menstrual cup users was how much of an impact would this be making if we were to reduce our waste as a female population or menstruator population. So I have done some of my research and I found that over 20 billion products just from menstruation end up in the landfill every year, which is quite extreme. And yeah, there's just tons of waste there. Cups are a great alternative. So I will touch on all of the details of what a cup involves and that sort of thing in a little bit. They love that it's light to travel. You only have to have one item in your bag with you if you're going camping or just going to school or going out. You don't need multiple tampons to carry with you all day. There's no nagging string, so if you're going to the beach, there's no worry of that like slipping out or anything. It's a one-time purchase for up to 10 years, and I can touch on that more in a little bit. So there's no like, oh crap, I ran out of my tampons or pads, I have to run to the store, and there's no stress of that. You already have your product with you. You have to change it way fewer times during the day. So that's a lot of an inconvenience for a lot of girls, is going to the bathroom all the time during school or during work, especially if you have a heavier flow. So with the cup, that's going to leave you with wider windows to go without using the bathroom, which is awesome. Also, there's no risk of toxic shock at all. If anything, your cup will just leak a little bit if it's too full, but there's no risk of toxic shock, so that's amazing. You have less cramping, that's proven scientifically, like there's no question about it. Most cup users either didn't have cramps to begin with or end up finding that their cramps are a little bit relieved with a menstrual cup. So that's awesome, and also you're saving so much money. So personally, I use the Saalt Cup. I think they're an awesome brand. Their mission statement is to empower people to care for their periods in a healthy and sustainable way. They donate money to school, education. They donate money to cleanups every year, so like picking up waste at beaches and that sort of thing. And they donate their products to homeless shelters or different organizations that have the need for menstrual products. So just this year they've donated over 7,000 products, which is amazing. And the reason I'm putting this video out today is actually because tomorrow, as I hope most of you know, is Earth Day. And because of this, the Saalt Cup brand is putting out a promotion. 100% of their proceeds tomorrow are going to animal preservation and cleanups and helping our earth. So 100% of the money that you will spend is going towards a charitable profit that's impacting our earth in a positive way. So if you've been sitting on the idea of getting a menstrual cup, you're a little bit nervous, you just need some questions answered, I hope I get to that today, and I hope I answer all your questions so that you're able to jump on this opportunity tomorrow, and that's a little bit extra incentive for you to make this switch. So there's a couple cons, just two, that I've found from the cup users, and basically it can be a little bit tricky to change your cup in public, and I can touch more on that and what I use in a little bit. And then just making the adjustment. I think one of the biggest things to think about is if you're comfortable with your body, because it is a little bit more up close and personal than just inserting a tampon. Like for me, that's never been an issue. I don't have anxiety over that kind of thing or anything like that. So I don't have an issue with that. But if other people do, that's definitely something to think about. A cup is not for everyone. If you're gonna get lightheaded and queasy every time you take your cup out, then that's not probably the best option for you, and that's okay. So that's just something you need to do a little self-reflection on if you're thinking about making the switch. Some of the biggest concerns I got from the non-cup users in my survey were spilling, discomfort, leaks, spilling when you're removing, and that's also comes along with the removal process, like how that works. Not wanting to reuse it. I think there might be a little bit of a connection between it being unsanitary, and I can touch on that in a little bit, and then what type of flows, like heavy flow, light flow, would a cup suit best. So first of all, personally, if your first couple times, I would try putting it in the shower, just because it's a little bit, I don't know, I found that easier. That's a recommendation I got from a friend of mine. And so I did that. I would like put it in, I tried my first insertion in the shower and it went totally fine. I didn't have too much of an issue to begin with. I know some people do, and it's just dependent upon the person, but basically there's multiple different ways to fold your cup. I can actually show you. So some people will just fold it in half like this. Personally, I do the C fold, which looks like this. You can do, it kind of looks like a flower, I forget what this one's called, but you just kind of push down the edge so that it looks like a little tulip kind of thing. And I'm sure there's other ways, but those are the most common. And so you just fold it, you insert it, it seals, like it's an airtight seal, and it forms to your personal anatomy. So I think there would be cases possibly where a cup doesn't work with your anatomy, but I've never had anybody close to me have that issue. I think they're very versatile and super flexible as far as that all goes. Discomfort, if you insert it wrong, you might get some discomfort like near your cervix area. If it's not, the idea is that the menstrual cup is around your cervix. Then that can cause pressure there and irritation, and so then you should just check whether or not you have your cup in the right place. But that's pretty much the only discomfort I have. I know some girls have a little bit of discomfort removing the menstrual cup, but that's not something I've experienced personally, but I could understand that happening for sure. Leaks, I would say I've done just about everything in my cup. I've swam, I run, I played basketball, I do yoga. I've tried it biking, hiking, all sorts of things, camping. So there's really no specific activity that will cause a leak, at least in my personal experience. I would highly recommend, if you're going to work out with your cup, empty it right before your workout, just so that there's not that extra weight there. That's another thing. When you're wearing a cup, you can feel it, it will kind of drop down, it feels a little bit heavier, and that's when you know, like, okay, probably need to change my cup, or you can just change it on a time schedule. But I think it's super interesting for anybody out there who's interested in healthcare or just interested in health and their body in general, like to be able to see your output and all that stuff. I don't know, maybe I'm just a nerd, but that's interesting to me. As far as not wanting to reuse the product, I think that stems from the cleanliness of it, I would assume. So basically, they do make cleaners. I don't personally own any. My regimen is basically to, right before I start, or like right when I start my period, or I know I'm gonna start my period, I boil my cup. So you boil it for about 8 minutes, I think is the recommendation. And that just kills all bacteria that might have been sitting on your cup for the last month since you've previously used it. Personally, I do also boil mine at the end of my period just because, I don't know, I don't like it sitting there without being fully cleaned for who knows how long. So boil it at the beginning of your period, and then all it takes when you change it every time is just, I dump it in the toilet, and then I'll set it like on a piece of toilet paper maybe while I'm finishing up, and then I just rinse it off in the sink with hot water, get it thoroughly rinsed out, and that's all it takes. So it's as simple as a rinse and then boiling before and after if you want to, after your cycle. So with public places, this can get a little tricky because if you're in a stall, it's a little bit, I mean, if you have the confidence, go for it, girl. Like, walk out there, rinse your cup, go back to the stall, put it in. I think that's awesome. I know a lot of places have the unisex bathrooms, or like one person or family sized, like separate bathroom. And so I know that's what I use at school, is our unisex bathrooms. I'll just go down there. It's a little bit of an extra walk depending on what class I'm in. But I just go down there, there's a sink in the bathroom with me, so that works super conveniently. And so that's what I would recommend if you're in college or high school. I'm sure they have bathrooms like that most places. So I would go for that option. But as far as like being out at a restaurant or a store, it's not necessary to rinse your cup in between every use. There's no opportunity for bacteria to form there that isn't already in your body. Just make sure you wash your hands beforehand, because as I said before, lady parts are very permeable, so any germs you have on your hands could very potentially cause you to contract an illness. So wash your hands before changing your cup, just so that you make sure everything's clean. It's a little bit probably gross to some people, but I've done it plenty of times. You just take it out, dump your cup, put it back in. There's no harm in it as far as your health. It's just a little bit less cleanly feeling, you know? So that's just up to personal feelings and opinions about all that sort of stuff. So, some questions that I got from non-cup users along with their concerns was the price. How much am I saving? How much am I paying? How long does a cup last? How often do I have to replace it? So I'm just going to speak to the Saalt Cup because that's what I have personal experience with, and that's a brand that I think I am very happy standing behind. So for the Saalt Cup, it is $30, and with proper care, they say you have to replace your cup every 10 years. Now you might get a little discoloration in the cup, but it's medical grade silicone. So there's no harm in your health, no risk in your health as far as what this product is made out of. So, as far as how much you're saving, I did my research and I found that for tampon users, I didn't look up for pads, but for tampon users, throughout your menstruation from the average age of 12 to 51, that's the average in the US, about 40 years, 39, a woman spends $17,000 in her lifetime. Now if you do the math with a cup, for 40 years, $30 a year, or every 10 years, if you treat your cup properly and take care of it, that's only $120. So that's an extreme amount of savings for you personally, as well as impacting our earth like we've already talked about. I talked about the washing process. That was one of the biggest questions people had, was how you wash it, how you remove it, how that all works. I hope I cleared that up for everybody. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. So flow. With the menstrual cup, the Saalt Cup, there are different options, sizes. So you have the regular size and the small size. Small size is supposed to hold 2 to 3 regular tampons worth of menstruation, and the regular size is 3 to 4 tampons. So if you have a heavier flow, I would go with the regular size. That's what I use. If you have a lighter flow, go with the lighter cup, or you can get the bigger cup. It's totally up to you. There's no right or wrong answer there. If you have a really heavy flow, I would just recommend the regular size so that you don't have to change it as frequently. But even still, you're going to be changing it way less than you would be a tampon. So I think that's something that's out of the question, is whether or not it's worth your time, you know? And I think it really would suit any flow perfectly fine. Maybe, I mean, I can't speak to how extreme some girls' periods are, and if that's the case, maybe you would wear a cup and a pad. It's up to you. A lot of times, my first couple days, I'll wear my cup and a little panty liner, because if I'm in school, I'm sitting down, it's harder to sense if I'm leaking, and it'll only be a little bit, like there's not too much of a concern there, just the same as with a tampon. But I usually wear a little panty liner just to protect myself in that area, but only for the first couple days. And really, I don't have too much issue with leakage. It's just if I put off changing it out. Okay, yeah, I think that's everything. I hope you guys will jump on this opportunity to benefit our earth, and with this immense opportunity for 100% of what you're paying to go towards a charity tomorrow. That's only tomorrow, as far as my understanding is. Also, you get 10% off your first purchase. So if you're at all considering switching to a menstrual cup, I highly recommend you at least just try it out, right? Because it's a great option for you and our earth. So, again, if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you for watching and taking an interest in this subject.